Hi, I'm Claire Taylor. I'm the Director of Programming at SeriesFest, and I am so excited to be chatting with the team of Bodega Makeover. We've got Evelyn Brito and Rui Lopes joining for the conversation today. And the Bodega Makeover will be playing in the unscripted block of the independent pilot competition. And we are thrilled to have you guys join the SeriesFest family this year and sharing your special project with us. So welcome.
Thank you.
My first question is where did the idea for this project come from?
So the idea, I just first want to say thank you for SeriesFest for selecting Bodega Makeover this year. We're really excited to be a part of this program. So Bodega Makeover started pretty much a couple of years ago with my daughter. I had to go food shopping for her because she really took to vegetables, and I couldn't find any fresh vegetables in my local community. So, I eventually had to, after my third visit, to 3 bodegas, I was really frustrated and I had to take the bus. And in my mind, I was like, wow, that bodega was really messed up. Somebody should give it a makeover. And I'm like, way. So that little light bulb came up and say, wait, I'm a filmmaker. I know about this culture. I know about bodegas. Why not me?
Amazing. And for our audiences, I lived in New York, so I know what a bodega is, but a bodega might be a kind of a new term for folks watching today. What is a bodega?
Yeah, good question. Because if you Google it, there's gonna come out 2 things gonna come up: bodegas in New York, like you said, are small grocery stores, or bodega, which is a wine cellar from Spain.
Those are 2 very opposite answers.
2 opposite answer. Yeah. So bodega is pretty much small grocery stores in communities.
Amazing. Yeah. And normally they're family owned, as we saw in the pilot episode. And where did you find your subjects? I mean, from the very start, you introduced us to some really interesting characters, including your host. So can you kind of walk us through how you put the pieces together?
Yeah, for sure. I went to visit a few bodegas in the Roxbury community because Roxbury is considered a food desert area. So I connected with a nonprofit organization called Madison Park Development and really talked to them about what the needs are, and went door to door. That's pretty much how I did it. And I was able to find a family who was interested in providing a healthy food options.
Wow. And what about your host? He's so funny. I feel like one of my favorite scenes is when he shows up thinking he's kind of skipped all the hard work and they put him to work right away.
Yeah, he's a riot. I auditioned him probably 2 years ago. It was a referral from a friend, and we just hit it off. And he just looks the part. He looks like somebody from the community. He looks approachable, and he's funny.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess so. What's the plan for multiple episodes? Will we stay in Boston, or will we move into other cities? What does a second episode look like?
Yeah, so right now we're done the pilot. We're gonna let that breathe a little bit.
Sure.
And then right. And so right now we're actually seeking to get it picked up from a network, and in hopes that we can continue doing more series in other cities.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And Rui, what was your role on Bodega Makeover? And do you have a favorite memory of working on this project?
Sure. Again, as Evelyn said, I just wanted to thank you guys for having us here today. So my role within the project was as the creative director, and also to an extent the cinematographer. So I was basically tasked with bringing Evelyn's vision of the project to life visually. So to answer your question in regards to the favorite part, would have been working with Jerry, so the host of the show. As Evelyn said, we said this plenty of times, like we couldn't have cast a better person to be able to host the series. So Jerry is a comedian out of New York. So he actually does things stand up, and he also writes. He does comedy writing. And when we first met, we realized right off the bat, not only was he just a good person to have in front of the camera, but behind the camera, he helped with a lot of, just the storytelling, right? Like we would have conversations, and granted, it's unscripted, but at the same time, we would have to have some sort of an outline of, what we were going to do. And he helped a lot with that. So one of my favorite parts was just that, working with him and trying to develop something that would be genuine as we went along throughout the episode.
Can you guys talk a little bit more about the unscriptedness, right? That it's kind of a leading word that like you do everything without a script, but there is a plan. Any advice for how to balance that plan and find those natural moments?
Well, as a producer, I think what was important for me was working with Rui and looking at sort of like, how do we tell the story, right? I'm all about structure. I'm all about, how do we make this list, and Rui comes in and will say, okay, maybe we can add this in there. But I think that worked well for us. I'm not sure if you want to add to that, Rui.
Yeah, I think it's really just finding a healthy balance, right? So granted, this was our first time putting together like a reality series, right? So a lot of that was coming up with a structure so we know where we're going, but at the end of the day, letting whatever happens happen. So if something were to take place, if the movers were to be late that day, we would have to figure out how do we incorporate that within the story, so that way it's kind of scripted, but at the same time it's organic as things unfold throughout the day. So it was just finding a balance and being able to incorporate it as we went along.
And also, if you see an opportunity, take it. I mean, there were times where, we had a whole bunch of stuff outside that we were taking out of the bodega, and I'm like, okay, we need a trash. What do we need? What do you call it? The trash truck to come by. And I looked to the left, and there was one right there. I was like, yes. So if you see an opportunity, take it.
And even like rescheduling things, because again, I mean, we're dealing with, so it's not, one thing we realize is that doing a makeover series, you're relying a lot on contractors, you're relying on people coming in on time, right? So that's another lesson that we learned was, for the next episode is to kind of think about those things ahead of time, because you might have a floor that's scheduled to be done today, but then something happens and that floor can't be done today. But then we were already scheduled to shoot that day. So how do you make up for that day, right? You don't want to lose a day of production, so you try to figure out other things you can film within that day, so you're not losing those days of production. So a lot of that was just a lot of learning curves as we went along, and it was amazing though. It was amazing.
Yeah. And you had such great representation of businesses in the community. Were those all just businesses that volunteered to be part of the project?
A lot of the volunteers, and there were sponsors, and then also they volunteer. They just really care about the community. So we have a plan in place after the makeover is done, that they will continue to build a relationship with that community as well as the bodega owner.
Oh, I love that. And my last question for you guys is, I really think that Bodega Makeover is a call to action to change up, really systemic problems in neighborhoods across America. Are there organizations that you could point your audiences to get involved, to fight the food deserts and make over their own bodegas, or call you guys to come in and make over their bodegas?
Absolutely, yeah, we want to hear those stories. Please email us. But yeah, I think consumers have the power. They should go to their local bodegas and say, hey, what can we do to bring healthier options here? Why aren't you bringing healthier options? And then oftentimes is because they have broken refrigeration or they don't know the resource. So if you're somebody that live in the community that can do those research for them, that's great. In Boston, I know I work with Madison Park Development, whose mission is to build healthier communities. But you can also support your, food project, which is your local farmers, to actually get them more involved in working with bodegas to provide healthier, foods.
Amazing. Well, you guys have created such a special project, and we're so excited to share it with our SeriesFest audience. And, you know, I think it's a great way for us to all get out after this year of lockdown and feel involved in the community again. So thank you so much. And I will talk to you very soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you having me.
Bye-bye.